The first part in this program is this Bitwise things happening.
Fantastic.
Yes, welcome to you, Marco, to the studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
And what did we see here?
So we were looking at the bell ringing of Bitwise in Stockholm. This marked an important expansion into the Nordic market for Bitwise, which is the world's largest specialized digital asset manager.
And you are the head of the Nordics, as I understand.
Correctly. So I'm the regional director for Bitwise in the Nordics, and the task at hand is to expand Bitwise across the Nordic region and listing on Nasdaq Stockholm and working with partners, old and new, here in Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, Iceland.
But you are not a newcomer to the industry. You have 10 years behind you?
That's correct. So I've been working in this space for since the early days of the crypto ETP industry. When it wasn't really an industry, it was more of an idea of an industry. I'm originally a lawyer and worked in capital markets and contract law. And in 2019, I founded an index provider which focused on the crypto ETP, or at that time, the emergent crypto ETP ecosystem. And we grew to become the largest crypto index provider in Europe. And after that, we got acquired. So I've been seeing this space and this industry and this world grow from its early days of people trying to see how you could put crypto on the stock exchange to now being a $250 billion industry.
And Bitwise, we all know them as one of the first ETF providers that were popular 2 years ago when it was opened in the States. And now they are going into Europe and specifically in the Nordics. And why?
For a number of reasons. So just for context, Bitwise has, as a company, been operating for almost a decade now and started out in San Francisco and based in New York and in Europe. It's based headquartered in London. And now it's recently expanded into the Nordics. And there's a few independent reasons for that. One is about the Nordics themselves, and maybe starting by looking at Sweden. All of the assets under management in crypto products in Europe amount to approximately $16-17 billion, give or take, depending on the market at the time. And out of that, looking at investments into Swedish products or by Swedish investors have approximately between 20 and 25% of that market, which is a staggering number. It means that the activity here is
of the whole of Europe.
Whole of Europe.
Sweden has 25 of the. Okay, that's interesting statistics.
Why is that?
So I think there are a few key reasons to that. One of them is that Sweden was the first place to ever list crypto on the stock exchange in 2015. Nasdaq Stockholm approved a certificate, as it was called at the time, that tracked the price of Bitcoin, and 2 years later that tracked the price of Ethereum. I think that we have an investment culture with ISKs, the typical kind of account that lets you trade nowadays tax-free up to a certain point, and after that you get a fixed low percentage of approximately 0.88% on the amount. And also, if you're a company, you can trade through something called a kapitalförsäkring or a KF, which lets you do a similar thing where you don't have to worry about the
so in
capital
Sweden,
gains
there
tax.
are policies incentivizing people to invest.
Exactly. So in Sweden, there's incentives to trade on stock markets, trade on regulated markets through your broker, your regular broker, such as Nordnet or Avanza or Saver. And this has incentivized Swedes to learn more about investing, learn more about stocks, learn more about which assets you should allocate to. which means that we have a very high amount of people with these accounts, with these participations, and one of the highest in the world if you look at the investment culture.
But why should you invest in a wrapped product or whatever you call it? Shouldn't you better invest in the real thing, Bitcoin?
Yeah. Exactly. So investing in Bitcoin directly comes with a particular number of challenges. And in the Nordics, one of them is that you have to keep track of private keys. You have to be sort of tech savvy, know to handle a wallet and a seed phrase, and you need to make sure you don't get hacked or you lose your keys. You also need to be a bit of a tax expert, or at least have access to them, in order to track the capital gains tax every time you do a transaction with Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. And for most people, this is a bit of a hustle. And for pragmatic reasons, most Swedes are looking to expose themselves to crypto, do that through a regulated wrapper, such as an ETP. And this has been shown in different market studies on the Nordic market on how Nordic and Swedish investors choose to invest. And in Sweden, by far the most popular way to expose yourself to crypto is through an ETP.
And maybe the last question to you, what are your ambitions?
Well, my ambitions are nothing short of being a partner to the Swedish investor. We think that there is a opportunity to come in with the both resources and dedication to this market. So we are, I'm going to be based here and out of Stockholm, and we have a team that are based here, and that's something that's less known about Bitwise is that we have one of the world's most famous research centers for crypto, and it's maintained by in the US, Matt Hugen, who I think you've interviewed in the past, and in Europe, Andrei Dragos. And we have researchers from different universities that work now at Bitwise and publish research free weekly. It's investment bank grade research, research on macroeconomics, research on things like cryptography, the quantum threat, or the question about the quantum threat versus Bitcoin, or traditional portfolio theory and portfolio analysis. And this is something that we publish completely free, and I've been doing for quite some time. And we are going to be distributing this in Sweden as well, educating people on this. And I think that people will be interested in receiving real academic research on crypto, written by academics in Swedish as well.
It will be exciting to follow you, and of course not only in Sweden perhaps, but maybe even Norway, where we are from, Finland and Denmark, which we are also covering. So thank you very much then, Marco, for this talk, and we will welcome you again on another occasion. Thank you very much then.